So there is some new news coming out of the Soy Lake, and what is that?
Yeah. So the newer side of this is that we have been working with industry, and you asked about that in-licensing, out-licensing comment. So let's tie it back. We did in-license and have been working to introgress and backcross and breed. When I say introgress, we are breeding and developing a new Soy Lake variety. It'll be called Soy Lake Plus Tech, but it'll be Soy Lake Plus Tech with E3 technology, and it will be able to be applied with the Enlist herbicide platform. It'll be launched in 2026. We will have a multifaceted test plots going to a few licensees here this year. And we already tested in 19 locations across the Midwest in 2025 or 24. So 2025, we'll do another 19. And then we'll be able to add our new technology with our potential licensees, taking that as an in-license for 2026. So the new realm of a range of about a 3.4 to about a 3.8 maturity group, high oleic, Enlist E3 being called Soy Lake Plus Tech with E3 technology.
And the Soy Lake will still be non-GMO.
The Soy Lake is the non-GMO portion.
So you can still pull that out and be okay.
You're still going to pull out the high oleic portion. So it'll, since the bean will have a GMO tech with it, that's why we had to go with that new logo and new name. So to explain that, in most cases, when we look at the use in domestically or use internationally, that's why we separated the names. Soy Lake with the leaf and the overall green and yellow look of its logo will still be the non-GM sector. Soy Lake Plus Tech will be the one that'll be attached to bags that have any GMO technologies for herbicide or any gene edit technology. So that way our buyers would know to ask what they're purchasing in the world of export or in the world of domestic use.
And this gives farmers, this gives consumers everywhere in between lots of options.
A new added advantage for Soy Lake to be put on more farms across the Midwest.
All right.
One of the reasons why that's such a big deal is the number one choice when a farmer is deciding what soybean they're going to be planting is herbicide trait technology.
Right.
Weeds are the biggest pest that farmers fight every year. From a visual standpoint, SCN we just talked about is the unknown pest, but you can see weeds, and they're developing resistance faster than we can produce new herbicides. I'm sure we're going to get into that. But,
yes.
It broadens the horizon for Soy Lake.
Yeah, because Kevin Bradley says there's no new chemistries coming out very fast right now.
That's right. Roundup was a great thing. Roundup Ready technology was a great thing. It revolutionized agriculture, as we know. But it slowed down herbicide discovery. If we look at new herbicide mode of action discoveries, we haven't had one since the 80s. Now there's some new modes of action coming. I know FMC has discovered one. I think Bayer might have discovered one as well. But the one that FMC discovered is rice specifically. And the new discovery from Bayer, I'm not sure when it is even going to be coming out or if it will make it to the market.
Because it costs millions, maybe even billions to get it to the market, doesn't it?
And years and years and years through regulation. So
minimum 25 million.
Wow. So you think I'll still be around doing this by the time it comes out?
Absolutely.
All right. So Blake, but you all fund not just the breeding aspect, you fund lots of different parts of soybeans.
Absolutely.
So give some more examples of that.
So when we think of the research that the Merchandising Council funds, breeding is a big portion of that. As we dove into quite a bit with the Soy Lake and differing varieties going to other companies, but there's a whole different gamut of agronomic testing as well as biotic and abiotic stresses. So I really think of the research into two different buckets, with a basic research, so looking at the genetics and looking at biotic or abiotic stresses and how drought tolerance, we can research how we can make soybean more drought tolerant. Or we look at the other bucket of agronomic and applied research. So whether that be with Dr. Kevin Bradley, like you mentioned, with weed science, or looking at soil health or diseases, differing pests, entomology, so differing planting practices per se.
Right.
So different, two different buckets: the basic research or applied research.
And someone might say, well, haven't we got this figured out already? We've been doing this for a while, but things change, don't they?
That's right. How long have we been planting soybean in the United States?
Right.
Well, you would think we would-
1924,
20s, yeah,
1920.
yes.
So over 100 years.
So coming up on, if it was 24, we just passed our 100-year
yeah.
mark. So you would think that we'd have it completely figured out. But as we mentioned, Mother Nature's always changing. Not only is Mother
she
Nature
wins.
changing, she wins every time. There's, we were just talking about modes of action. There's weeds currently out there that are resistant to modes of action that haven't been discovered yet. So she will win every time. But not only that, we have to have more food for the people on the planet now than we ever have, and that's increasing. So we need to find out how we can grow more soybean or more food on less acres, and that problem's not going away.
You know, you mentioned frog eye leaf spot earlier. Probably 42 years ago, I was taking a crop and soil management class, and the plant pathologist came in, and he mentioned frog eye leaf spot, and our instructor said, "Why are you talking about that? That's a minor problem. We're never going to have an issue with frog eye." And all of a sudden, it raises its head.
Well, you're one hurricane away from the next disease.
Right, because rust was an issue there
Yes,
for
sir.
a while.
That was, and that as a farmer's child that grew up a little bit further south from here, any hurricane that hit Brownsville, Texas, was a huge red flag for us for what the next season was going to present.
Right. You know, and talking about how the research has really changed the production, and farmers do a great job. Sometimes we need to listen to the farmers because they are very innovative, and you remember when Kip Colors first broke the 100 bushel mark
Yes, sir.
and was going up. And so we went out and we tried some of the things that he was doing. This is 2007.
Yes, sir.
And I made 87 bushel per acre. Oh my God. I gave talks all over the state of Missouri because I'd made 87. Farmers would laugh at you now if that's all you could do.
Yes.
But because farmers took what other farmers had done, what researchers could help them with, and they just blew it out of the water. Mm-hmm. What's the record now? It's two something.
Yeah, I think it's in the twos.
It's in the twos, yeah.
And even Missouri, we're in the 150s now that farmers can get. It's just amazing that we used to treat soybeans, it doesn't need fertilizer, it doesn't need this. Yes, it does. Mm-hmm. And I've even noticed now precision planting of soybeans, how much it pays off. Mm-hmm. We used to not really worry about that.
Nope. No one had a map in their tractor.
No.
No, they had a list of what was planted where on what acre.
Right. But
That's what I grew up with. There was a little. The black book was the black book of planting. It was in the console.
But corn, we understood that corn needed to have this precision spacing, and it made a difference. But soybeans didn't. But yes, they did.
Yeah, I mean, we've gone from. I don't remember who said it. It might have been you, Tim, or
I'm
Kevin.
sure I did. No.
We've gone from a drill, which is a controlled scatter, in my mind, to precision planting. And like you said, we've gone from just a few years ago of having 80s in the 80s being the top yield potential, that was the target, to now that's a pretty common occurrence. We're hearing 80, 90, 100 bushel beans across the state as a normal occurrence.
I think the other one is seeding rate.
Seeding rate's huge, and that's
Seeding rate has changed so much since when I was a child to present.
The opposite way that I thought.
And it's changed drastically.
So it's funny you say that. We've looked at population for how many years? We're still funding research on population and how it interacts with planting date, row spacing, relative maturity. Those all take into account when you making your decision on when you plant, what you're going to plant. We have a study right now with Dr. Andre Reyes looking at that exact thing. And there are huge swings in the same field, whether you're planting at a really high population with one maturity or a really low population with another maturity and date. There's huge swings in yield potential just based on those factors. And he's plugging it in with multiple years of weather data and trying to find a yield prediction tool so you can optimize your planting date with what relative maturity, et cetera.
Because one size doesn't fit all anymore.
That's right.
I remember we were 9 seeds per foot, and that was about 150,000.
Okay.
Yep.
And now it's down to about 120,000, and I think those record yields were at 77,000 population. That blew my mind. What?
We went from a 50-pound bag to 138,000 pound bag, 138,000 seed, which was anywhere from 38 pounds to 44 pounds, to now half of that bag in value of quantity is what you just nailed at 80 something bushels.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? That's not what I thought. I planted a lot of hip beans by hand for single plant populations and breeding programs, and it was measure this out inch by inch. And it's what you talked about.
Yeah, right. So things have the more we learn, the more we learn that we don't know, but we're really improving that and matching it with the environment, and that's what's really neat.
And every field's different.
Yep.
Yeah, like you said, you can't just put a one size fits all on your whole farm. Every single field's a little different, whether that's maturity or pH, soil type. Everything's a little different, so you can't treat everything the same.
Well, even if you look at cover crops. When I first started working with cover crops, I was telling my dad about it. He said, we did that in the 1930s. And they did. But now we're coming back with a little different aspect of it. We're doing things a little differently. And so I think we're not repeating the past, but we're improving constantly on what we've been doing in the past.
Well, I think that goes back to Blake's history. We're sitting here looking at some of the oldest chemistries on the marketplace right now that are now coming back into full tank mixtures. New Me Too, which is when my world of past regulatory, it's the same or similar, and we're combining these jugs of active ingredients to give the farmer a more economical approach. Blake can go into it, but that's what him and his team, when he was working with Kevin and doing graduate work, we've revolutionized and brought back chemistries that I never thought I'd see again.
Even like your 2,4-Ds.
Oh, yeah.
Coming out of the 50s.
The oldest herbicide there is 2,4-D, and
Right.
now it's one of the biggest herbicides on the market with the new herbicide trait technologies.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Exactly. If Triflan ever can come back, trifluralin, that'd be a big one.
Oh my! Everybody'd have yellow everywhere.
Exactly.
It'd be yellow everywhere.
It's still used some.
It's still used.
Yep.
I think the last time I used that was in sorghum.
Yeah.
That was the last time I used it. Was in
Specialty
sorghum.
crops.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. But that was one that was used very widely, extremely widely, but who knows what's going to be the next big revolution?
Right. And Blake, tell me about what the companies are talking about for what 32 and beyond look like. Got any thoughts there?
Well, we've all heard Dr. Kevin Bradley's talk on herbicides and resistance. Well, the answer to resistance right now that we have from all the companies is integrating more herbicides. So right now we have a 3-way stack. In most cases, we have dicamba, Liberty, Roundup is one, 2,4-D, Liberty, Roundup is another. Now we have a 5-way stack that will be getting approved, hope in the next few years. I don't know, I'm not going to say a date, but in the next few years, from one of the big companies where we have 2,4-D, dicamba, glyphosate, glufosinate, and mesotrione, so HPPD. The Callisto of the world, that's mesotrione. So now we have a 5-way stack, and then in a few years after that, we're going to have a 6-way stack. So we have the same 5 stacked with PPO. So the flumioxazins, the Valors, or the sulfentrazones, the authorities of the world.
Some older chemistry.
Right. Now we're having to spray those pre-only, but we're going to be able to spray those post in 2030s.
Oh, right.
So the answer right now, the only answer we have is just keep stacking on more herbicides. Stack them on there.
Now, using the pre's as posts, that'd be great to be able to do that. Does it worry you about taking that corn herbicide and start putting it on soybean acres?
It absolutely does.
Because we're so much of the corn and soybeans.
Right. Oh yeah.
And we're putting so much pressure on HPPDs in corn.
Yes.
That's the number one.
Already.
Oh, absolutely.
Daily.
Every I'm not going to say every 90% of the cornfields out here have an HPPD on them, and mesotrione's the most popular,
Right.
from a cost-effective standpoint. And now we can use that in soybean. We all know what can happen when we overuse a single molecule, like glyphosate, for instance. We can increase the resistance, the speed of resistance.
I was on the on the weed tour, the IPM tour in the mid '90s when Roundup Ready soybeans came out, and the weed scientists were the first ones that get to use them. And there's a lot of the folks from industry on the wagon talking about what weed would be the first one to be resistant, and everybody was guessing Morning Glory, and they were wrong.
Really?
Yeah, because it was already a little bit weak. Roundup was a little bit weak on Morning Glory to start with, and so that would be the one. Never thought about or pigweed family. Never thought about that one.
Really?
Now it's in every field.
That's in every.
Yeah. So again, Mother Nature won.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
So we think we've been kind of doom and gloom on herbicide resistance. Now, with all these herbicide traits coming into the play, we can manage it. We just have to be proper stewards. We need to scout our fields, make sure we're not spraying. We have 4-inch weeds. That's about the size of a pop can, soda can, not a yardstick. That's not a 4-inch weed.
Yeah, we did that. And I say we did that. 4-inch weeds.
Yeah. So, we can be proper stewards, overlap our residuals. Best time to control a weed is before it's up. And we're putting a lot of pressure on our Group 15s right now,
yes,
too.
Sir.
So the
Group 15s are
long chain fatty acid inhibitors. So we have dual warrant, Outlook, Zidua. They
or PPI or Prees.
Yes.
Prees,
Yes.
just residual only. Putting a lot of pressure on them. And we've actually started to see some slip in Group 15s in Illinois. They did a survey, and we're starting to see some resistance to Group 15s, which we're putting a lot of pressure on them. So we need to keep them around.
Right.
So we need to stack multiple modes of action and be proper stewards on our fields.
So would we want at least 2 modes of action? Let's say water hemp's our big weed. We want 2 modes of action out there as a pre.
3 is what we want.
Well, I thought I was doing good with just 2.
Cost comes into play, right?
Yes.
That's the farming is a business.
Sure.
Farmers aren't just out there planting because it's fun. They're planting because it's a business. So at the end of the day, we have to make sure everything's cost effective. So that's why we're seeing pressure on these certain molecules, because it is less expensive to spray them.
So herbicides are a big thing, pesticides in general. And because I know Mandy Bish was telling us when she was here, don't get too carried away with fungicides.
Yep.
Because make sure you scout your fields first, because we don't want to waste those dollars, nor do we want to lose this technology.
Yeah, same thing applies to fungicides and insecticides as we have with herbicides. We don't want to just spray to spray. We want to be scouting our fields, seeing if there's disease present, and if there's not, maybe we don't need to spray. Now, with you mentioned frog eye leaf spot. That's one I'm sure Mandy talked about when she was here. Is we've already seen resistance happen with our strobilurin class of herbicide or fungicides to frog eye, and what she's worried about and what other pathologists are worried about is if we just spray to spray, we're not scouting our fields. We can increase that speed of resistance to maybe other classifications of fungicides. So we are seeing some health benefits of the strobilurin class of fungicides, so that stay green effect in soybean and corn, but not every acre needs a fungicide. It's not always going to have your return on investment. So that's really when we need to be scouting our fields. And if we see a disease, contact your state pathologist or extension to see if you should be spraying.
Yeah. One thing, as a past regulator, the fungicide and insecticide market is probably the hardest marketplace to bring onto commercial terms, because we are dealing with items and active ingredients that have multiple effects across not only what you're targeting, but other things around it. So keeping that in mind, the least we spray, the lesser our risk. And we don't have as many flags in agriculture on that case. And that way we're being more steward of our approach. We're saving and reducing the amount of resistance, but we're also allowing our chemistries to work their true lifespan and not develop resistance that we should not have had. So that is probably one of the hardest two classes, or insecticides and fungicides, a lot of times when you're trying to deregulate these chemistries that are developed in the world of a past regulator. It is always a fun battle fighting to keep those on the market and even bring a new one on the market.
So we've seen the See and Spray sprayer that came out. That's going to reduce our herbicide and load that we use, hopefully, and also maybe even our resistance speed. Would the same thing help down the road for fungicides and insecticides, where something can detect a disease or an insect issue?
Yeah, I'm not sure how accurate the cameras are, because
Yet.
I mean, let's just I'll use the easy one. It's tar spotting corn. It's difficult to see the spot. I mean, the spots aren't really that difficult, but what if it's not tar spot? What if it's just insect frass? So it might be mistaking some other factor as a disease. So I'm not sure if they're there yet. They might be. And we're also spraying fungicides as a preventative too, not just a curative. So
yeah, because it's harder to cure a fungal outbreak than it is to prevent it.
I use cure as a loose term. We're stopping
it from spreading.
Stopping the damage.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, to reverse it's almost impossible.
Right. Yeah.
You know, another memory, again, 40 plus years ago, our weed science professor was just kind of quizzing us about what we knew, practicality that we knew, and if you had this weed problem in soybeans, what would you spray? And one of the students said Roundup, and we all laughed at him. But you know, that'll never happen. You know, it happened.
Yep.
So technology will change, I think, and I can see lots of changes happening.
So it's funny you mentioned technology. So if somebody would have came up to you and told you that we would be electrocuting weeds 40 years ago, what would you have said?
That's silly.
Yeah, there's no way. Well, MSMC did fund a project with Dr. Kevin Bradley on weed electrocution. So it actually has a bar out there. I don't know if you've seen videos of it.
Well, we've had it on the show before.
No, you have.
Yeah.
Shooting electrodes out, electrocuting weeds.
Yeah.
It's really fun. Catching weeds on fire is always fun. But that's the next approach. We're so reliant on herbicides that we're trying to integrate IPM, integrate multiple different agronomic practices, as well as looking at new technologies, whether that might be drones. You said See and Spray.
Right.
There's technology out there now that you can map a field and it can identify weeds, similarly to like a See and Spray, but you map the field and then have a drone go out and spray. We're currently looking at making sure the drones have that capability. So there's been a lot of claims with drones that if you asked me 5 to 10 years ago, well, maybe not 10, 5 to 7 years ago, I thought drones were going to be taking over.
Right.
I thought they were going to be almost replacing ground rigs. We're not there yet. They have their place, but I don't think they're the silver bullet that we all thought they were.
Well, and right now I'm getting excited about these small robots that can go out in your field and work all day.
Absolutely.
24/7 and
autonomous. Just the full world of autonomy, I think, is the next step. You're not going to have huge equipment. That might still have a place, but I was out at a conference where a guy had the biggest equipment in the country. That was the goal. Just get bigger, and bigger. And he said that's not really the most economical thing I should be doing. He took a step back and is now running several smaller autonomous tractors and doing all of his field work, his spraying or weed removal, all autonomously.
well, because we used to, Yeah, we knew the equipment caused compaction, but that wasn't what's limiting our yields. Everything else is. We have other issues. Now, compaction can be an issue.
Very absolutely.
Fertility, when we didn't worry about it as much before, now we're starting to get into how micronutrients can affect quality of our soybeans, how it can affect the yield. So it's continuing to change.
Well, let's look at sulfur.
Mm-hmm.
Sulfur, back when emissions weren't quite as good as they are now with ultra low sulfur diesel, we had a lot of atmospheric sulfur. So soybean could take in the sulfur, and we didn't see any symptomologies of
right
sulfur reduction. And now we're starting to see that we have to apply sulfur in our fertilizer recommendations or with our herbicide applications to help supplement that sulfur.
And what I've noticed is industry in that respect is ahead of university.
In regard to
sulfur.
Yeah.
They really are. I talked to my friends in the industry. Yeah, we're doing it. Whereas sometimes the university is a little bit slower on that part. That's where I think we've kind of fell down a little bit.
Sure. And there's a lot of biologicals on the market now with maybe it's increasing our fertilizer uptake, making the P and K more available, nitrogen fixating. There's all kinds of different biologicals out there that is on the market and that we're playing with.
Sometimes I think our technology gets ahead of our application.
Drones are a perfect example of that.
They are.
They're moving faster than the research can keep up.
GPS back in 25 years ago got ahead of everything, or maybe it's 30 years ago, whenever it came out in the late 90s. It got ahead of us a little bit. All right. Well, we're about out of time. Is there anything that you want to add before we have to sign off?
I was going to say real quick, you said that we were a little bit behind technology on sometimes when it comes to industry. And I think that can be perceived in that way. But what I think that a lot of people and farmers don't realize is that the checkoff work is sometimes doing that in such a microscopic level in the research capacity that it's not showing up because the industry has the marketing, the overall plan to make that happen. It takes us a little bit to get things going. Then we do subsequent research and we are there. And we have developmental within our own germplasm or within our own research packets. But that aspect. And the other thing is, Tim, I don't want somebody coming and fact checking me on the year. I think 1924 was when they brought soybeans to the Mid-South, but I don't know. But I thought that I would be like,
that seems about right.
It's in that range. But I remember that was the Hartz company, if I'm not Hartz, I think was one of the first ones in the Mid-South.
Well, I got a MU publication from 1926 about soybeans.
Okay.
So I think you're pretty close.
It's close.
I think you're pretty close.
I think that the takeaway is today is that we're always working and looking at different things. Yes, industry can do a lot of research with their price points and their ability for funds to do that. But the checkoff's doing some really cool work on behalf of the farmers in this state to make sure that they have the ability to harvest a crop every season.
And that return on investment.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we have we'll go back to those three buckets from the Merchandising Council. We have research, so we're trying to make more soybean or higher quality soybean. We have the demand, so we're trying to have an end use for those soybeans and sell them, or maybe a new use, and then educating on what we're doing. So I would end with, if you're a soybean farmer and you have a great idea, like, hey, we're not looking at this research. I think some more research needs to be done. Get on the website, send me an email. I would love to hear your ideas, because we're always trying to brainstorm and how we can increase production and help Missouri soybean farmers.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. It's been great, Brian and Blake, to know more about what the Missouri Soybean Association and Missouri Soybean Merchandising Council is doing, but how it interacts with university researchers to help Missouri farmers and all farmers across the country. All right. Well, this is it for Tim's Take, and we hope to see you next time. Bye.